Welcome to show number 87 of the Jimmy Palumbo Show from downtown Mahwah, New Jersey, in my kitchen, and also from downtown Mattawa, New Jersey, from the Chop Sports Studios via Mojo, via whatever the hell else we got here. Your friend and mine behind the glass with Jimmy Palumbo here. Chris Gucci's in the house. Chris, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Pleasure to be here. Packers lost 5 in a row. Here to check in. I'm doing okay. I promise. I'm over it.
I know people have been sending you care packages, soups, canned goods.
It's actually kind of nice, all the attention I'm getting these days.
Well, you do realize that I have absolutely zero caring, only because I'm a Rutgers fan and a Giant fan, and we've sucked for so long that I just you had one bad month.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for some to see, for sure.
It's good to see. It's good to see somebody just suffer for a little bit, even though I'm not. We'll see how the Packers, whether or not they make my stinks list or not.
Oh, they should.
But this is show number 87. And of course, I was thinking I could have went, listen, I graduated Rutgers in 87. I could have done that. But since I did 83 Colonia High, I said, you know what? I'd have more fun, get back to the roots of what this is. And I chose two guys. But before that, I got to mention Gronkowski and, giant tight end Howard Cross and guys like that. I'm sure you're going to mention a few pro guys as well. But I'm going to go with two guys. And these two guys are just, I think they're drive off the road people. And I apologize for my scratchy voice. I was screaming at the Rutgers game. We'll get more to that in a little bit. I'm going to go with Gary Shirk, okay? Tight end for the Giants years ago. He played 7 years with the Giants. He's your classic tight end that couldn't play today. He probably would barely be able to play D3 college. And what I remember about him, I was a younger kid. He played definitely until I remember him. He was the kind of guy that always was supposed to get cut. And Chris, you'll love this. He was the guy like they draft a tight end and Gary Shirk's going to get cut. And then they would do those like spring game things, who can run around the track most and do the 40-yard dash, those things coaches do. And Gary Shirk would come in first every time. And like it was like the last 3 years, they were like, he probably won't make the team. And next thing you know, opening day, he's starting the game. Just a very incredibly average, but he played for 7 years in the NFL.
Guys like that are great on special teams, and that's probably what he stuck around for.
Right. And 130 receptions, 11 TDs. So Gary Shirk, number 87, and two guys are just going, what is Jimmy talking about Gary Shirk for? And the other guy to me, is very unique. And Dave's going to hate me for this. It's a guy, number 87, Byron Williams. And here's why. He was a wide receiver with the Giants, okay? He was only there for 3 years. But the best thing about it, he had the worst hands of any receiver I've ever seen, even to this day, okay? But he was fast. And in 1984, the Giants started to get, we had the 81 season, we made the playoffs, and there was a strike. 83, Parcells came in, we shit the bed, 3-12-1. And 84, the nucleus of the Giants kind of got itself together again. And there was a receiver on the Giants named Byron Williams. And against an early Cowboy game at home, I remember Phil Simms, a quarterback, and we had receivers that are as like fast as you and I are, okay? And this guy caught a pass from Phil Simms at the 35-yard line, and the Cowboys we thought they were pretty good. He took the ball and took it like to the house, like. And I remember being like, I was 20 years old. I remember we were like, oh my God, like he split the defenders and you thought like, oh, he'll get knocked out of bounds at the 50. And all of a sudden, like he just was gone, like touchdown. And we were all, the fans were like, we never do that. It was like one of those, Drew Pearson plays or Jerry Rice plays that happens every week. Actually, now it happens like, twice a game to guys.
But I'm waiting for mine. I haven't gotten mine yet.
And I remember just being like, we were like Byron Williams. So years later, whenever there was somebody wide open and caught the ball and like didn't get in, we were like, oh, he's no Byron Williams. So my two guys are going to be Gary Shirk and Byron Williams. If you're a Giant fan, you get how funny that is. If you're not, well, it's just two shitty guys who played for the Giants years ago. Who do we got, Chris?
All right, well, it's an easy one. It's obvious for me. I'll say Robert Brooks because it's my sister's favorite player, and I know that Roxanne listens. So Robert Brooks, her all-time favorite player. And then I have an interesting story about number 87 from the Green Bay Packers, Jordy Nelson. So I've been to Green Bay a ton of times, and I'm sitting in the bar. It's curly.
He don't play no more.
He doesn't play anymore, but he's in my top 3 all
I
time
remember him. I
favorite
remember him.
Packers.
Sure,
Just
sure, sure.
quiet guy, got it done, smart player, saved us from a lot of dumb penalties with McCarthy. I could get into that, but that's another story another day. I'm sitting at Lambeau Field. It's Curly's Pub. It's the bar at Lambeau. And I'm wearing a shirt, and it's a shirt that looks like the Michael Jordan symbol where he's dunking the basketball. But instead of saying Air Jordan, it's a football player holding a football, and it says Air Jordy. So
Air Jordy getting involved here.
A woman at the bar says, "Hey, where'd you get that shirt?" And I was like, "Oh, I got it online." I showed her the website, and she was like, "My son would love that shirt." And I was like, "Oh, where is he?" And she was like, "Oh, he's in the locker room. My son is Jordy Nelson." She bought me a beer. So I had a beer with Jordy Nelson's mom. Took some pictures.
Wait a minute now. Hang on. How old was Jordy Nelson's mom? She might have been,
And come to find out, a year later, Jordy Nelson's mom got divorced, and this is a true story. So it had nothing to do with me, but the beer was good on Mrs. Nelson at the time.
All right. So
cool story, right?
She was a decent looking lady from what you're assuming.
Yeah, well, they're from Kansas. They worked on a farm their whole life, so you would imagine, but yeah.
So farmer hot.
Yeah, farmer hot. If there's a such thing, yes. Okay. I mean, I'm sure there is, but.
All right. So Jordy Nelson. Well, you have to go with that then. You have a special. Well, you like the Packers.
So it's Jordy Nelson's mom. We'll call it.
All right. We'll call this. So it's basically show number 87 is dedicated to Gary Shirk and Byron Williams and Jordy Nelson's mom. I can think of no better way to go with that. All right. That's it. So now we got to get, of course, everyone. Thanks for continuing to support me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and please do all that stuff. And streaming in a little shout out to Greg Riccardi, who's listening in on LinkedIn right now. LinkedIn seems to be the only place where people can listen. I haven't figured out the social media thing yet. Every time I do something on social media, only 4 people even get it. We're working on that as we speak. And I am in now with Patreon. I'm doing really well, Chris, because I'm solid. And what you want, I've learned, when you have Patreon, you got to be solid. You want to just keep the same. You know what I mean? You don't want to grow Patreon. Why would you do that? You want to keep the same. So I am now, mired at Patreon number 14, which makes me really, at the end of the day, the Dan Fouts of Patreon. I know I just pulled that one out of my ass, the solid Dan Fouts. And of course, they are Alex Stetzena, Mary Eileen Riccardi, Mike DeMosi, Eileen Palumbo, Joe Palumbo, Rob Pastor, my Kappa Sig buddy, James Kanowitz, my website guy who rarely calls me back, but I love him anyway. My nephews, Jimmy Riccardi, John Henry, and Eric Palumbo. We got cornholelevel.com. Michael Caprio getting involved here. My brother Frank, who's the Wellington Mara of Patreon for me. And Darryl Clark, my happy LSU fan. He's been very thrilled with what went on. I told you Kelly is going to dominate at LSU because he can now recruit the kids that you don't have to go through the hoops that you have to go through at Rutgers, Northwestern, Boston College. He's at LSU. He can recruit anybody. They're gonna win a national championship within 2 years. And also my buddy Greg Castellino to round it out. So we are stuck at the Dan Fouts level, but that's okay. That's how it works. Which brings us now to, Chris, I don't know if this is going to be a sad segment coming up or an inspirational segment. This is something for the kids at home. Now, I don't want to bring the room down, but we normally do a segment called Jimmy's Weight Loss, Jimmy's Weight Conundrum situation. And it's sponsored by, and I'll get the sponsor out of the way. It's sponsored by your friend and mine, Absolute Eyewear. 42 Main Street, Woodbridge, New Jersey, 732-326-3937. Chris, 732-326.
Eyes.
You love that. I know you do. It's owned by Craig and Janine. They're opticians. Go check them out. They're awesome. And the best thing, they got everything there. All kinds of prescription sunglasses and eyeglasses and stuff for the kids. Everything's done on site. They're cool people. Although Janine was not at the Rutgers game on Saturday, they do eye exams there. They got Ray-Ban, Coach, Ralph Lauren, Jimmy Choo, Silhouette, Michael Kors, Vogue, Maui Jim, Costa Del Mar, and Oakley, not Charles Oakley. you get $100 off a complete pair if you mention the Jimmy Palumbo Show. They're open 5 days a week, but they're closed on Wednesday. Why, Chris?
That would be softball night,
And they're
Jimmy.
closed on Sundays. Why, Chris?
That's obviously Football Giant Day, which is
6-2 football Giants are on the air. This is Jim
soon
Gordon
to be
alongside Dick Lynch.
6-3 Football Giants.
Stop. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, you Packer loser. So that's it. Go check them out. Now, listen, me and Chris in our production meeting, we have these long production meetings. Usually they take around 40 seconds. And we went over stuff. We finally decided that since I'm not really on any dieting plan, okay, that we think we're going to pause this Jimmy's weight loss segment until the new year.
Did we discuss this?
Yes, we did. We talked about it. But here's the weird thing. Now, last week I came in at 197.5. And this week I came in at 196.5. So a lot of people say, why would you stop it when you are now starting to head in the right direction? Well, there's reasons for that. I'm just eating better. I'm running around, playing a little more pickleball. But the bottom line is I'm not really on a system. So it's kind of like,
this reminds me of a situation where it's like, you're going to a therapist because you have an issue and you're like, no, I'm fixed, so I'm good now. So I don't need this therapeutic segment.
No, it's not that. No.
Jimmy's fixed. He says he's fixed, guys. No. So I'm proud of you, bud.
No, I'm not saying I'm fixed at all. I'm saying that we're running the ball off tackle, and we want to put a little system in place where I can start throwing the ball downfield a little bit. And I will only mention my weight loss between now and the new year if it's like, hey, you know what, I had a good week. But we're gonna just pause this segment and get more into it later on. But that's okay. Absolute Eyewear is still the best sponsor at Chop and the Jimmy Palumbo Show. So that's it. So I lost another pound. So God bless. I think you can see it, my chin a little bit. All right. Well, let's get right to it. I like to do this show like a Monday morning kind of thing from the weekend. We could talk about Rutgers football. Let's see. I don't really know how to describe this. I lost my voice because the first half of the Rutgers game Saturday night was the most fun I've ever had in a first half of a Rutgers game ever. Keep in mind the Louisville game, I think we were down 25-3 at the half, or maybe it was 20-3. We're getting beat in the half, then we blew them out in the second half. But not blew them out, but we took the lead. This game was fun, man. Michigan got the ball. They marched downfield. They looked like a top 5 team, the yellow, and there was tons of fans there for Michigan. Can't blame them. Rutgers people sold their tickets. They went to StubHub. Michigan fans have a huge contingent of alumni in New Jersey. I think it's the third most state of alumni. They were there. They weren't douchey at all. They were just enjoying. And they came out and they went down the field and they looked like, oh boy, they look bigger fans. 7-0, boom. But then a funny thing happened. I kept on saying, well, our defense is better. Let's see what happens. And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of punts going on, and then 7-0, 7-0, 7. Then we kicked the field goal, 7-3. And then we blocked the punt. And Rutgers has a history of blocking punts. We blocked, and the crowd just got electric because it was almost like, all right, we're going to get our ass kicked, but we just blocked the punt, took it to the house. It was fun, jumping up and down, me and my brother all fired up, And then they kick a field goal. They start taking leads and stuff. It was like, and the only thing I can tell you is after we blocked the punt, Shiano decided to go for an onside kick. My brother hated it. So did the guy to my left. I loved it because to me, it's like, you know what? When you're in a boxing ring and you can't go 12 rounds, any uppercut you have a shot at, you got to take it. Not that we would, even if we got the onside kick, would have happened. And of course, it led to something where I couldn't have been more wrong. Because I'm about to say something that fans are going to get pissed at. Next thing you know, they have the ball at the 50-yard line. And, they score, blah, blah, blah. But then they miss field goals. The bottom line is Rutgers was up 17-14 at the half. The crowd was very exciting. And I started to notice it was like, wow, when Michigan starts at their own 25, they don't do much. They get a couple of first downs, but they punt. And so I was excited about that. And then, of course, at halftime, I went up to get a beer and I was high-fiving with my buddies. But we were all like, It wasn't like Rutgers fans aren't like, oh my God, we're awesome.
It was like, no, we did it.
It was like we did it.
We did
It was
it.
almost like, dude,
Now let's go. Now let's go watch the second half.
Right,
And
you know, but
Rutgers
it was
get
like
their teeth
it
kicked in.
wasn't like, oh, where do you see what we're going to do? And it was more like, hey, it's like going out for a cigarette break at a bar and being like, dude,
look, you've been saying it for like 2 years now. I just want to go into the halftime with the lead.
That's
and
all
then
it was.
That's it.
That's
you
it.
Did it.
And we did it. And we, you know, it's like being in a bar and you're out, you know, you go to the bathroom with your buddies and you're like, dude,
do you think
that
Harbaugh
chick's talking to me?
Do you think Harbaugh even had to say anything at halftime, or did he just look at them and say,
no, listen, no,
guys,
but he actually did say something at halftime, but he was strategic. So we go back in there and all of a sudden this kid Wimsat, he's young, he's got an arm, and I wish him well. I still think he's the quarterback of the future, obviously, but although we're bringing in a bunch of quarterbacks next year, and he's got an arm, but I think his ankle's bothering him. He never runs. I don't think he's that fast anyway. He's got a rocket arm. But he has no touch. Like he looks like a guy who never played pole to pole in the street. You know what I mean? And like, put it this way: if Vedral's wrist was shattered in 15 places, if Vedral was in this game, we don't lose 55-17. No chance in hell. And then Wimsatt comes in, he throws 3 picks in 3 minutes or 4, whatever it was, 4 minutes. So Michigan started at the 30-yard line. One they took to the house. They were starting at the 30 going in, and they scored right away. And next thing you know, I was in my car on the way home. And I was like, wow, we just got blown out right there. Like it was like an explosion at a
it's
backyard.
Basically what you expected to see at the start of the game, right, and then them take their foot off.
But the only thing I still say, yeah, but when they started at their own 25, they didn't do much. They had so many points after, like, from midfield on. So the only thing I could take from it, even though it looks like our defense was lousy, it was more that our offense was horrible. And but now, as Rutgers fans go, this is the one problem I have. Nothing ever carries over. Like, we play Michigan State this week, all right? Michigan State is not nearly as good as Penn State, Michigan, not nearly this year. So, like, why can't the first half of the Michigan game eliminate some turnovers, carry over, but it doesn't happen. I wouldn't be shocked if Michigan wins 45-3 and Michigan State wins 45-3. You know, we're still alive for a bowl. We got to win 2 out of 3. Michigan State is down this year. They're way better than us. Penn State, that's a loss. And then you got Maryland to end the season. So it just was I'm tired of being on Route 287. Very depressed that my team just did something like, oh, that was brutal. It's always something like the interception. It just was brutal. But, and then the fans at Michigan, one Michigan guy whipped a beer can from 2 feet away to one of the guys that was like 6 guys away. It was like vicious, and he was an older guy, and he got kicked out. And fans were really about to really attack this guy, because it was almost like if it hit him in the head, I think this guy would have been like maimed. It was awful. And then the security guard, I went to get a beer. I saw a security guard talking to the guy who threw the beer. It was a can, about a 24-ounce can. And he was talking to the guy very calmly, and it looked like the security guard was going to let him back down. So I went over to another security guard, and I said, hey, man, listen to me very clearly, okay? You can let that guy back in, put him in the upper deck, put him in another row, put him somewhere else. If you bring that gentleman back down to that seat right now, especially we're up 17-14 at that time, people are going to attack. You're going to have a brawl, because guys were really pissed. You don't throw a beer can. Like it was 2 feet away. It was like an assault. And next thing you know, we didn't see the guy. So whether I had a hand in that, I don't know. But we got blown out. The Michigan fans were dancing on our grave a little bit. But you know what? That's what happens when you give up 45 points in 7 seconds. And so that's that. So, but we move on to something exciting. What happened last night, Chris? Maybe you're not aware. Rutgers basketball season started, and we're going to have on in a little bit Ed Zucker, former Rutgers player, who's going to give us a little preview on Rutgers basketball, and I'm going to give my 2 cents. But they opened up with Columbia, 11-point lead at the half. Columbia stinks, and we won by 40, which is what you have to do. So I was thrilled to be able to go from sad Rutgers football back to something that's been a little more positive in the Rutgers Hoops arena. And that's it. My Knicks, I still think they stink. I turned the Knick game on, and all I see is a bunch of guys running around. Like, it is nothing. What's going on here? Like, they're supposed to be a good defensive team, but the other team scores all the time. Obi Toppin, to me, he runs around, he dunks, like, but he stinks. And I don't know, like Jalen Brunson and it's like, I'm a Knicks fan, so I root for the jersey, but like nobody really likes this Knicks team. It's just like, oh, they're only down by 5, or oh, they're up by 8. There's no like, you know what I'm saying, Chris, when you're watching a team and you're like, oh, okay, they're running around.
I think everybody kind of understands that the Knicks just ain't there yet. So why get so bent about it? Watch them. Oh, they're up 8. Cool. They're down 5. Typical.
I don't know if they're ever going to get there though, because they don't have.
I agree.
Because it's a star league, and
I think Barrett is just not athletic enough to be a star in the league. And while he'll be a good player, just when they picked him,
you know what it is? I feel like the Knicks have 10, 12 people on the roster, and what they have is no great players, but they have like 4 good players that will, even if they leave the Knicks, will play in the NBA another 3 or 4 years. But in the NBA, 4 good players means you're 5 games under 500, or you're fighting for the 8th seed. Maybe. I just don't think they have an identity. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. My Giants had a bye, 6-2, still fun. The bye came at a bad time because we lost. But look, they play Houston. Houston's not that good this week. Maybe the Giants will. I'm going week to week with the Giants because they can easily lose any game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants go 6-11. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 12 games. The way the NFL is today, it's a mess. They play Houston. That's a winnable game. And they think they have. Then the last 5 games, very unique. I don't know if you know this. In the last 6 games of their season, they play the Eagles twice, the Redskins twice, and the Cowboys. All their divisional games are loaded up at the back end. I don't recall a season where that ever happened, but it really depends, how good the Washington. Did I say Redskins again? I didn't mean to say that. How good Washington is, so on and so forth. So that's that. So the Giants, to me, again, you just go there with a smile on your face. Hey, we're 6-2, and hey, we're 6-3. Hey, we're 6 until they're 6-8. It's hey, this is great. Also, the Jets with a nice win. Jets are playing good football, and that's always fun to see. I'm not a Jets fan per se, but I don't mind the Jets, and they're playing good football, playing inspired. They're fun to watch. So that brings us to Christopher. cornholelevel.com, because it's time for the stinks list. The famous, it's becoming world famous now. You aware of this? It's really, I think it's going to be on ESPN. The Jimmy Palumbo stinks list is sponsored by cornholelevel.com. You know why, Chris? If you play cornhole and you got a board in the backyard and it's not leveled and it's lousy and it's crappy and you got a bad backyard on a hill, maybe you put this thing on, it balances it to, fro, up and down. You hook it on the hole. It's awesome. It's $19.95, 20% off. If you put in JP Show, go to cornholelevel.com. Chris, these things are awesome. It levels your cornhole board. And I know guys like me and you, we play cornhole like once every 9 years. But when we do, like I would feel bad if I knew you were at a party and you left your cornhole leveler your the gadget, as we call it.
Do you think I would ever show up at a party without my?
I don't think so. I know you have one in your glove compartment, because you're not good at cornhole because you don't spend the 20 minutes to become ranked. So I know, like if you and I went to a barbecue and I said, Chris, let's really try to be the best players here, you would be like, Jimmy, I'm
already better than you out of the gate.
No, see, that's where you're wrong. See, we'd be even. We'd be people who don't care. We'd be teammates. We would be the non-caring, but we're going to dominate this barbecue, or at least show everybody how we were not ranked. We weren't even Division I, and we're tied with North Carolina at the half in the Final Four. That's how we would be. But without the cornhole leveler, you can't win that game. So check it out, cornholelevel.com. It's $19.95. It's stocking stuffer time here at Shea. Get this as a gift. It's really a good gag gift, too, to bust someone's balls. But now they sponsor my stinks list. Now, I got to be clear about something with this stinks list, okay? Maybe, Chris, it hasn't been explained properly. The stinks list is designed for this. You're watching the game, as I did last night, for about 5 minutes, and you look up, and you watch it a little bit. It was like, you know what? The Saints stink. It's like a quick decision. It's very accurate because you're watching a game. This team stinks, and that's just how it is. Then I look at the records. I see who's awful. I look at who they play, what division, who they played the last couple of weeks, and you can just see either they don't score or they have no star or this team stinks. That's how it goes, and that's why it's called the stinks list. And there's always way more stinks in there because this whole stinks list is shrouded in the fact that the NFL stinks. And Tom Brady's big comeback drive, pass interference, defense in the end zone. Like it's always a pass interference. Now, I think he only got one on the last drive, which is a miracle. Normally, the over and under on pass interferences under 2 minutes is 5 because that's what teams get. There was one game last year where the quarterback completed 2 passes and they won the game with a touchdown. How does that work? And the passes were like for 9 yards. Awful.
Are you talking about the Bills Patriots game?
Doesn't matter. It does. It all stinks.
It was like there was like 8 inches of snow in that game.
Well,
and it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds. The fact that they even played was crazy.
Okay. Well, listen,
yeah, I agree.
No game. Anyway, the NFL game is odd. But here we go. Week 9 here, I guess. I call it week 9 anyway. Here we go. AFC, Buffalo Bills, good. Jets, good. Miami Dolphins upgraded to good, and I had to think long and hard about this.
Well, that should upgrade your Patreon.
Yes,
from Lou Pinella to Bart Starr.
No, or a good one with Bart Starr. My buddy Shecky, Mike Lawler. I'm upgrading them to good, but let me tell you, it's a barely good because they didn't look that great last week. New England Patriots, I'm going to upgrade to average. And why do I get a funny feeling, even though the Patriots borderline stink, that they're not dead yet? But that's a good division. That's wide open there. Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to put them at good. Cincinnati Bengals, average. Browns and Steelers stink. Tennessee Titans, average. Colts, Jaguars, Texans, they all stink, man. I don't care what anybody. They stink. Colts stink the worst. Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to put it very good. But you know what? They're another team. You watch the games, you're like, yeah, they're good. They got Mahomes. All right. I think they're just all right, but I'm going to keep them very good because they won. God bless.
And because you also understand that when it's all said and done and there's 4 teams left, they're going to be one of them. Most likely.
No. I think they're going to get knocked off in the playoffs. This year's going to be unique. There's going to be some upstart teams going to do well. Kansas City Chiefs, very good. Chargers, average. Broncos and the Raiders stink. Ugh. All right, NFC East, my adorable NFC East. I got the Eagles at very good. Hey, 8-0, bro. 8-0's 8-0. Dallas Cowboys, they didn't play. Got to keep them at very good. That's fair. They didn't get a chance to stink. The Giants, I'm keeping it good. And Washington Commanders stink. Minnesota Vikings, very good. Packers, Bears, Lions stink. This division is the reason why I may have to demote the Vikings is because the Packers, Bears, and Lions, I think and the Lions, it's so hard. I swear to God, if my mother was the GM of the Lions in the last 10 years, I'm not so sure she would do worse. Right? It's hard. It's hard to be the Chiefs or say Patriots when they had their run there, or Packers, really. It's just as hard to do that as it is to be awful. It's hard. Being awful every year in the NFL is not easy. It's hard to do that. You have to get injuries. You have to have catastrophic draft picks that don't pan out. And you have to have like either a culture or a coaching hires, 3 or 4 of them, that just epically fail. Very difficult to do that. Anyway, that being said, I'm
or
so
just
sorry.
A shitty owner, which they do have.
Yeah, but even with a shitty owner, it's hard. It's hard. Anyway, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints, Panthers stink. The Saints stink. All 4 of that whole division stinks. Tampa Bay, they stink. NFC West, Seattle Seahawks, good. 49ers, average. Rams and Cardinals stink. So that's it. 17 stinks. 5 averages, 6 goods, a rare, way more goods than I thought I'd ever have, and 4 very goods. That's it. The Jimmy Palumbo stinks list. And that's it. I got my buddy Neil Goldhaber, MD, saying that Barrett stinks, but he loves Obi. I like him too, but he stinks. And in a big playoff game, he disappears. Don't worry about it. And now, you know what time it is? It's time for Rutgers Hoops. Now, your friend and mine coming onto our show, very special guest, my roommate from college at Rutgers, Mr. Manalapan himself. He got injured when he met me, which is why he sucked after that. Your friend of mine, Eddie Zucker. Eddie, welcome to the Jimmy Plumbo Show with Chris Gucci.
What's up, guys?
How you doing, bud?
What's going on, man? I know Chris is thrilled about this segment, college hoops. I wish you were a Packer fan, Zuck. We could talk about that. But we're going to be – I just want to break down. Everybody knows I'm a Rutgers fan. And it's they won last night. How did you think they looked last night?
Well, look, it's like you said earlier in the show. I mean, they're playing Columbia, and you expect them to have that kind of outcome. I mean, first game jitters, some new guys in the program, but they did what they needed to do. Had 5 guys in double figures, so they had a lot of balanced scoring. So it was a good first win.
All right. Well, listen, Geo Baker and Harper are gone. The fact that Harper's in the NBA is mind-boggling to me. Now, they have a couple guys from last year. They have I read they have 60% of their minutes back or some kind of crap like that you read online. They got Caleb McConnell, who I think is a really good defensive player. I don't think he can score, but we'll see. They got a beast at center, Cliff Omonuri. He's he's just a big dude, man. And he dunks, and he led the nation in dunks, which is pretty hard to do. He's probably going to be an NBA player for sure. If he rounds out the rest of his game, he could maybe be a force. And then you got your friend and mine, Mr. Paul Mulcahy, the guy who, when you're watching the game, you think he does nothing well. You think, what is this kid doing here? He looks like a D3 recruit. And then all of a sudden, he's 33 minutes, 12 points, 7 assists. He's one of those guys. And they seem to always play better. So I actually love Paul Mulcahy now. But those are the 3 guys you have back. And I call this, Eddie, and you can chime in a second. I call this the year of the if. If guys like the freshman Derek Simpson play well, if Antoine Woolfolk plays better, if Cam Spencer, the transfer from Loyola, if a Reber, who I like the way he plays, there's just tons of Mowat Mag, if he develops. There's a lot of ifs going on. And if half of the ifs come true, I think they'll make the NCAA tournament. What do you think?
Well, let's talk about this season. So obviously losing Gio and Harper is huge, but they did get a big time transfer in Cam Spencer, who led the Patriot League in scoring at 18.9 points per game. So anytime you lead, you lead at Division I,
I know, but they played
scoring.
They played like Matawan, Linden, and Carteret. Let's not get crazy. It's like you at Manalapan. You were good at Manalapan. Then you went up against Elizabeth and got brutalized. Come on.
Let me tell you something. I saw the kid play last night. He really is a good player. Can do it from inside, outside. I think he led the team last night with 17 points. But look, they have some veteran players. I mean, they got Paul. They got Cam in. The Cliff is now seasoned. Obviously, Caleb McConnell is a phenomenal defensive player. And you got 4 core guys right there. And the coaching staff is very high on Mawat Mag because he's now stepping up. And if he can hit those perimeter shots, I mean, his corner 3 is really a deadly shot for them. And if they have balanced scoring with the way they defend, I think they're going to be, in a good position.
Well, I think this kid Cam Spencer. We've had other kids come that are highly regarded. What's that guy's name? Peter Kiss, Chris Rock, whatever his name is. He came in and he stunk. But this guy really looks like he's the real deal, and that'll be a key cog. He's also good from the free throw line, which we only shoot 70%. The thing about Rutgers, though, and this is good and bad for a fan base. And Chris, you can relate to this. Even when they're really good, they never look good. In other words, we'll go play Michigan and beat a Michigan team or beat Ohio State. But it's like, if you're watching the game, you're like, oh, this is ugly basketball. And the guys we have still on the team I think are good at ugly basketball. They're scrappy. They play defense. They hustle. We're very good at home. I think we've won 42 out of 50 games. We're 42-8 at home the last 50 games. We finally got that going. So sometimes what I'm worried about, though, is we have to win all of our non-conference games just about, against all the bozo teams. We have to win because that's what bit us in the ass last year. We were only in the play-in game because we lost to DePaul and Lafayette. You can't lose to Lafayette and go anywhere. But somehow Rutgers did because they beat 5 top 20 teams in a row. But that's not going to happen this year.
Well,
So
I totally agree with you. You got to win those games. I mean, I think Thursday they play Sacred Heart, and then they play
Right.
Saturday. They play against UMass Lowell. So you're right. These are games that should not even be in a discussion of why did we lose to teams like that.
Yeah, but you ever wonder why the way Pico coaches his defense and hustle and all that, why do we sometimes play so lousy against these teams that we should, beat by 15 or 20?
I mean, that's the $1 million question. I mean, but last night we played against one of those type teams and we blew them out, which is again what we expect.
There was a while it was 15-0, and next thing you know, it was 21-16. So I mean,
correct. I mean, basketball. Listen, it's a game of spurts. I mean,
right.
You just got to hope that your spurts are better than the team you're playing against. So
it's the same thing as podcast. I mean, Joe Rogan had a little spurt. And now I gotta catch up, right, Chris? I mean,
just a long way to go, though, Jim. Just a long way to go.
Right. Just one more thing is that the experts picked Rutgers to finish 8th in the division in the league.
Right.
So I guess that's a little bit better than half because you have 14 teams in the league. But you're right. You talked about your ifs. I did, watch that freshman Derek Simpson play last night. Very good player.
Yeah, but he didn't have a good game. He missed a lot of shots last night.
He missed some shots, but he took good shots. He brings a different dimension when he steps on the floor in terms of his speed. And he's long. He plays hard. He defends. I think he's probably going to be a 20 minutes per game guy. So he's your first guard off the bench. So, yeah, you got the ifs. And obviously, Cliff has to stay on the floor and out of foul trouble.
How did Jalen Miller do?
He was fine. He he does what he does. He defends.
I'm getting that. He's fine. He's fine. He's gonna be there. He'll be there for 4 years. We'll be still saying the same thing.
I mean, he's not a guy that's going to come in and score 20 points per game for you. That's not his role. His role is to get on the floor and defend and lead.
Here's another thing, and I know people. Listen. The Rutgers football and basketball season overlap. So if I'm talking a lot about Rutgers today, only because the Michigan game last week was big, and now the season started. I'll tell you one thing. If you're a recruit, right, Chris, and you got to visit, Rutgers, and then the next weekend, Michigan, Penn State, right? And Penn State's playing Ohio State. And so you go to the Rutgers game, and there's like 40,000 people there, about 15 at the kickoff. And it's nice. People are drinking in the parking lots. It's a nice little place. And then you go to Penn State, and you're like, whoa, white out, going nuts, right? Like, you have to be like, whoa, this is a whole different game. Now, for basketball, I think it's exactly the opposite. Any recruit, I'm telling you, Chris, I don't know when's the last time you went to the rack. You go to the rack for like a Big Ten game, and it's as big as college basketball atmosphere as you can possibly get. Of course, it's not Cameron or North Carolina, but I'm talking about where the place, that awful design of that awful trapezoid shitty building, the fans are like on the court. It's loud. It's also bad acoustics. So the loud reverberates, the band's playing. It's like, it becomes like a beehive. And if you're a recruit, you're like, whoa, this is awesome. And I can't believe we have that now. It's the rack is a very difficult place to play. And I think that's the biggest thing Pikel has done. It's a tough place to play. And therefore, you tend to do well at home. It's that simple.
Let me ask you this question. When was the last time, and you and I go back a long way, Rutgers opens up at home against Columbia, and it was sold out?
It's unbelievable.
I mean, what does that tell you about how far Rutgers basketball has come?
When you played, let me tell you how it used to be. I lived on Livingston, 100 yards away. I used to just walk into the rack. There wasn't even like ticket people. They were like it was like a student building. Like, it was like going to the library, going to the rack. I'm going to go to the lunch hall. You just walked in and some guy goes, "Hey, where you going?" I'm like, we're playing Lafayette. The game starts. All right, where you sitting? Like, I'm going to sit like, well, there's that little section with the rich people, but I'll sit over a little bit over there. I used to like wave to you. Like, you would act like you were a tough guy. and you and Ellerby, but it would be like, it was like maybe what, 1,500 people there, those early games.
Yeah,
And
listen, look, I mean, again, Columbia sold out. I mean, that's just a
nuts.
credit to Peichel and what he's built at Rutgers, and
Yep.
our fan base now is like a big time Division I basketball. I mean, that's
It's
what we
fun.
are.
I'm
It's
just
awesome.
worried though that the scrappiness, I have them. We'll go into predictions now. I can't believe I'm being so positive, Chris. You're going to be shocked at this. I have them going 19-12. I think we're going to get a few ifs out of these if guys. We're going to go 19-12. I don't know. I mean, losing Baker and Harper, and now I'm saying we're going to be 19-12. I don't know where maybe I'm smoking dope and drinking wine, but I think we're going to go 19-12, and I think we're going to get a regular bid in the dance. I do. Eddie, what's your prediction?
That's a bold prediction.
I know. I don't know why. I just feel like being positive because everything.
I'll tell you what.
Negative.
If we're able to make the NCAA tournament with losing Harper and Gio, that is unbelievable. If you look at things, yeah, we have some veteran guys back, but I think there are going to be spurts, and we saw them last year with these good players, that we're going to have trouble scoring at times.
Yep.
And you know this, that if you don't put the ball in the basket, your defense is only going to take you so far.
But you got to remember, we had trouble putting the ball in the basket last year, and we had Baker and Harper, and believe it or not, they were the reason why we had trouble putting the ball in the basket. You know what? One thing about Peichel, and Rutgers fans are totally not going to get this. I mean, they should get it. How about when like the good players on Rutgers, you would swear they went back to their dorm in the middle of the second half for like 7 minutes. Like you'd be watching a Rutgers game, and all of a sudden, like, is Baker hurt? Or is Harper? Where'd they go? And like they're they're still there. And then like they'll have like 12 at the half, and then like with 6 minutes to go, Harper will have only 14. Like, where did he go? Like, he was in the game earlier.
Totally, I agree with you. There were times last year where both of those players were MIA during games, and like what was going on with this whole thing. So look, if you say 19 wins and we get to 19 and we're competitive in the Big Ten, like last year we finished 4th at 12-8, which was an unbelievable accomplishment. If you finish 12-8 in the Big Ten conference and you win 19 games, you're in the dance.
Yeah, another thing, I got a Mark Resnick here. He says say hi to Corey. Mark Resnick, he's on the chat here. He says, does 19-12 get RU? And yes, Rutgers wins 19 games. They're going. It's that simple. I think they're going to get in. And now Rutgers used to be the little train. Like, who are they? Can they make it? Now it's like, it really is their 4th year of getting in a weird way, if you look at it that way. Right? They had the COVID. That was one. And then we went 2 in a row. So really, this would be the 4th year. So people know who Rutgers, and the coaches know who Rutgers are.
I'll tell you, as for you and me who room together and have been through all these ups and downs, in Rutgers athletics, and I'm talking about Rutgers basketball.
A lot of downs.
Right, but again, for me as a former player, to turn that TV on last night to see the opening game and see the rack sold out against Columbia, to me, that was icing on the cake as far as how far we've come as a program. And credit to Peichel and his staff for what they have done and have taken this this team to another level. It's just a great thing to see.
Let me ask you this. This is a dumb question. How does Rutgers treat you? I mean, obviously, you played there, but it's not like you were an All-American there, but you were the Big East, not Big East, Atlantic 10 top freshman. What were you, Atlantic 10, third team, something like that? And people know you are. How do they treat you, like, corporate-wise over there? Do they handle those things well? I know for a while, I don't think they did. That's,
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that anytime I need tickets and I want to go to a game and I make a call to the basketball office, they do go out of their way to provide tickets for former players. And they want the former players there. They want the current players to see and meet the former players. And they do a great job with that. So I have only positive things to say about what they do.
That's
and how
good.
they.
That's good. You love to hear that, because there was some years there, I think Rutgers sometimes dropped the ball in terms of getting that stuff done. Well, we have late breaking news here. Late breaking news, Chris. This is you. Big news, Chris.
I think I know what you're talking about. I see it.
It's big, bro. Mike Lawler aka Shecky, because of now this might be payola. I'm going to take some heat for this. He has joined Patreon. So now we have 15, but we're going to hold off on the nickname for 15 till next week. Maybe we'll be higher. Now we shouldn't. We are now in the Thurman Munson / Bart Starr of Patreon. Mike Shecky Lawler joins Patreon at Palumbo's at 15. Fans are on their feet. There's confusion on the field. We are now up to 15. That's very exciting. I got his $3. He loves the show. And that's big news. I can't believe, even on election day, CNN's breaking with it right now. Underneath it just says Shecky gives Patreon. It's big. It's big. Now, my fear is if the Dolphins lose next week, I got to be careful. So maybe there is. Listen, I'm Italian. It's New Jersey. Maybe there's got, Chris, maybe sometimes you got to look the other way.
Gotta sell out sometimes. It's not even looking the other way. It's just completely selling out. Let's call it what it is. You're a sellout.
Yes, and I need to sell out more. So listen, if you have a team that stinks and you want to be upgraded above the stinks list, well, there's one easy way to do it. All you got to do is sign up for Patreon, and I will say how great your team is up to a point, and then I have to, I got to have some integrity.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Being that you two guys are sports guys, did I see, or am I reading this correctly, that Jacob deGrom has signed a 4-year, $180 million contract with the Rangers? Did you see that? Is that like
Chris would know better than I?
SNY was reporting that he was signing a 4-year, 180 with the Texas Rangers.
Wow.
If that's the case, you know me, I'm a Mets fan.
How long ago did you get that news? Because I do not see it yet.
Okay, well, that's good. If you don't see it, then I'm very happy about that. Because you know that I'm a humongous Mets fan, and I had to deal with you and your ridiculous Yankees all those times when we were roommates together. I couldn't handle you. But we are Giant fans, you and I, and we never forgot that.
No, we're both Giant fans. We're both Giant. We know where we stand. And listen, if someone's going to give if someone's going to give deGrom $180 million, I would be like, should I call you an Uber? You guys, how do I get you out of here that fast?
Hey, let me give you one more number, 87. Somebody that I know you loved as a player, and I loved him in the 70s. How about
Ron Moses?
No, how about Dave Casper?
I know. I didn't. I was hoping that Chris would mention Dave Casper, but as one of those crazy NFL Films guys, yes, Dave Casper was number 87 for sure. No announcement on deGrom. And by the way, let's listen. All right,
if the Rangers offer him that contract, would you say 4 years, 180 mil?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then he's going to take that because the Mets aren't going to give him that.
Here's another thing about the Mets.
No way.
This guy Diaz, right, signs a big contract. He had a phenomenal year. Yes. I mean, maybe top 5 or top 3 years you could have as a reliever is awesome. The horn thing, it was a fan thing. It was awesome. But please, all my fellow Facebook, don't compare him to Mariano Rivera. Oh, the higher contract and all that. If Mariano was in his prime today, he'd be making $40 million an hour. Mariano, he blew some saves, but you gotta do it for 20 years, man. And I don't care. I remember like 3 years ago, Diaz stunk. Mariano never stunk, and you can make the argument Mariano was better before.
I'll tell you this: while I agree, I don't hear the same people. And when if I do hear something like that, I just ignore it and I say, you know what, we can't talk sports. We can't talk sports with somebody like that. But
he was phenomenal this year.
If Mariano was playing today, he would be getting the most money of any reliever in baseball.
Right.
No question.
And I think
conversely, though, I would take Diaz on the Yankees in a heartbeat.
Let me tell you something.
Well, we don't have Chris. What are you talking about? I closed 3 games last year.
Listen,
here comes Palumbo coming in at 61 miles an hour.
As a Met fan, Diaz was just ridiculous. He was crazy. So good and could have been one of the greatest seasons ever as a reliever.
You could definitely make that argument. No question.
I mean, the guy was just lights out, and he's
and
getting
what's great too,
based on market value.
I don't hate the Mets at all. The whole horn thing, it was pretty fun. It was when he did that live, that guy that came out.
That was unbelievable. You know what? By the way,
I think the Mets had to give him the money only because not only did he have a great year and blah blah blah, he also has like this marketing thing. I mean, everybody they were playing that horn at the Rutgers game
Yeah.
Saturday night, and everybody started to clap. It's a cool thing. And the Mets kind of
It's also a trumpet, but
Yeah.
whatever it is,
It's a
what I call
trumpet.
it.
a
Hey,
horn.
but before
horn.
Is he
I
Dizzy
sound off
Gillespie up
here,
there?
Well, but it's part of the horn section, asshole.
yes.
So
Let
I
me
was
just,
not inaccurate. Get your but it was fun. Even as a any fan, when he came out, it was fun. It's a lot
100%.
like Cortez with the Yankees. He does those weird kicks and stuff like that on the mound. So
Hey, before I sound off here, I want to give a shout out to my son and the YU men's basketball team. They open up tomorrow night against St. Joe's, Connecticut, and
he
college
plays for
basketball.
Yeshiva, right?
Yes, he does.
Very
And
cool.
again,
Starting.
any level of college athletics that you're associated with, you could be as a player, as an accomplishment to any student athlete. And last year for my son, looking forward to really taking this all in and absorbing it. And I look forward to a
it,
good
man.
season.
Listen, anytime your kids play, it's you're right. It's a great thing. Enjoy it. And go YU or YM. What do you call it?
YU Max, baby, the Max.
Here we go. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on them. I'll have you back on in the middle of the year,
100%,
right before the Big Ten tournament. I'll have you
You got it.
again. And I appreciate Eddie. I love you. Thanks for coming
You
on
too,
the
brother.
show.
Love it. Chris, great
Go do
talking
your
to you.
thing.
You as
And,
well.
we'll talk to you later on, Eddie.
All right, brother. Go RU.
That's Eddie Zucker with his thoughts on Rutgers. I know you don't follow college basketball that much, Chris, but Rutgers has been pretty good the last 3 or 4 years, and they got a lot of ifs, though. And if the ifs go bad, it's
I
trouble.
think that my heavy involvement with the NFL and then the NBA at the same time with college basketball starting, it's impossible for me to get going until conference play. And once conference play starts, then I'll start getting into it.
And also, you know what, to be honest with Rutgers has not really been that good in so long. So like, it's not like a casual fan has a history of, in other words, Rutgers basketball has been good only for 3.5 years. So it's not like they were good in 1991 and, they beat Duke one year.
I've had spurts in my life where I've really gotten into college basketball and then kind of faded away and then liked it a lot. And it was typically attached to how I was doing gambling at the time. I would say, like if I was winning money that year, college basketball is great.
That's one of the things I hate about the NBA draft a little bit is that, like, when you watch I watch college basketball more now, and then on draft day, there's the international players, like, I don't know them as well. So when you're watching the NBA draft, you're like, he played for the Taiwan Bears or whatever. And like, you're like, oh, heck, usually it's like, I grew up with, like, from Virginia, from North Carolina, from Texas. And now and these players are great. And I wish
it makes the NBA better or worse, depending how you look at it, but
international league
harder to get into. The NBA is the hardest sport to get into professionally, I think, by far.
Oh, well, there's only 12 guys. There's only, what is it? There's 100 and how many? 100 and 200 players.
And then the pool that they're taken from is worldwide.
And remember, they play, every country plays it. Every college.
And not to mention, you also have to be at least a certain height and there's so many variables that go into it. You have to just be.
You bring up the height thing, and I'll get off the Rutgers thing in a second, but I just read that Rutgers offered a scholarship to a kid who plays up by me here. His name is Grusser, I think. And I've been saying for years, Rutgers has to get a guy who's a little short. He doesn't have everything's wrong about him. He's short. He's this. But what he does is he makes it happen. Like I always say, Trace McSorley, a poor man's Trace McSorley. And they just offered a kid a scholarship who is going to Harvard, but now he may renege. And I was reading the coaches talking about him, and I'm like, maybe this is the guy who, like, you know what? Nobody's looking at him, but he throws a touchdown pass every day. Like, I want that guy who, like, is a gamer. You know what I mean? Not a kid. You know what I'm saying, Chris? That kind of, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what the right word is.
Like a Doug Flutie.
A Doug Flutie, someone who all eyes are upon him. Like,
that might be like a little bit lofty,
a little bit higher,
but yes,
someone who's like, when you're down by 14,
the NFL version of Doug Flutie.
Right. Anyway, also big news. I don't have all the details. I will be returning to the Avenel Performing Arts Center in downtown Avenel, New Jersey, Woodbridge Township in March. I don't have the dates all set up yet and the prices and online and all that. That should happen in a couple days. It's going to be mid-March, 2 shows, Friday and Saturday. Chris, I hope you can make one of them, perhaps by then. And we may even tape it and do a big thing, but it's also going to be like a Colonia High School reunion. I really want to that was the coolest thing about the show last year. We sold out a couple of shows and there was so many Colonia people just floating around.
It was like the beer.
Cool.
It was like the St. John Vianney beer tent.
Correct. It was like probably one guy said to me, this is better than any reunion for Colonia has ever had in like years. It was fun. I saw people older than me, way younger than me. Hey, what's going on? Remember your dad? It was fun. I'm trying to create that atmosphere. I'm going to be bringing in some very good comics because in case I suck, and it should be a good old time in Avenel. We have plenty of time to deal with the dates and times and ticket prices and all that. So that'll be that. Chris, do you watch Handmaid's Tale?
No, come on.
Oh,
you know better, Jimmy.
Dude, it's good, bro.
And I'm not denying that it's good, but
does your girl watch it? Because
my mother definitely watches it.
All right. Well, I think your mom's a fan of the show. So this Handmaid's Tale, what a freaky show. It's so provocative. It's so stupid. And anybody doesn't know Handmaid's Tale, it's about United States kind of gets taken over by this people, and they take women and they make the women have babies for people. But it's like they weave in things that you start going like, oh, that could totally happen today. I don't know. It's just one of the actors are just like, it's one of those shows that I don't know if I could be on. It's one of those shows like, ooh, everyone's too good here. To me, it's like, North Carolina. But it's really cool. I also saw, if you didn't watch it, then we really can't talk about it. But it's one of those shows. If you're looking for a show, I would say Handmaid's Tale, dig yourself in. It is intense. You will not be able to sleep right away. But it's not so much gory. It's just like, whoa, this is intense. The other thing is, Artie Lang was on that comedy show on Vice about when things happen at comics. It's on the Vice channel. I'm forgetting the title of it. It's airing now. They show all these comics that have had downfalls and deaths and stuff like that. But I saw the one on Greg Giraldo. And I forgot how really funny he was and how his ups and downs. And, he ended up, ODing by accident, really. But it was very intense. They had a lot of, check that episode out if you can. It was
you doing it right over there?
It was I just had to get I got a little gas at my diet, bro. You know what I mean? A lot of broccoli. But I thought it was a very interesting show. That's highly recommended. And I don't know if you noticed. Did you ever see the movie Christmas Story?
Yes.
Okay. There's a new one coming out.
Yes.
He's older now. Now it's either going to be really fun in a Cobra Kai way or like brutal.
Ooh, yeah. I'm going to probably lean towards the latter.
Okay, but are you going to be man enough to admit I'll make you watch it.
I'll watch it. Look, these types of things, man enough to admit, of course.
Jimmy,
I have a girlfriend. Do you realize the amount of unmanly things that take place in my life?
I'm aware. I listen. I played that. I know all about that band. Okay.
Yeah, as the guy
I was the lead singer in that band for many years.
You still are, because you're going to do the Nutcracker on Sunday and rehearsals and things like that. So I got to give you credit there.
Listen,
pumpkin picking is one thing.
Okay, let me
dance rehearsal is an entirely different.
But listen,
animal.
Something crazy happened. I've been doing a Nutcracker for a couple of years now, right? Never a big deal because rehearsals were on Sunday. And why did I have any reason to watch any football on Sunday? Now I looked at the guy who's done 12 shows in a row, 12 years. And he's a big Giant fan. I go, dude, Giants are like good now. Like what he was like, this is killing me. When I signed up for this, I didn't think we'd be good. But we have cell phones and we try to get scores. And although whenever I try to get a game on my phone, it never works out. I guess I got to get some kind of NFL package on your phone. How does that work?
I have a couple. I know of a way. If you know anybody in college, I could get you NFL Sunday ticket for the rest of the season for like $60 on your devices.
We may talk about off the air. I'm sure it goes through China or Taiwan to get that.
No, it goes through the NFL Network, and there's a student discount. So all you have to do is have there's a Rolodex on directtv.com
Right.
of all of the students enrolled in any college in the country. And if it
Alright.
lines up, hey,
Okay. Well, listen,
you know,
listen. This
right
is
now I am currently Ashley's sister who goes to Delaware.
well. Listen, I think you're Ashley's cute, so you look adorable as Ashley's sister right there, Delaware Blue Hens. There's so much big news. First, we got Patreons going up to 15. I'm doing a show in Avenel, and also I got a booking. I will be shooting a movie next week in downtown Somerville, New Jersey, directed by Thomas Baldinger. And I have a meeting with him regarding some beer league stuff tonight. So this is a big week. I've had a lot of meetings. I'm trying to really put a lot of cool stuff together. There'll be some big announcements coming up, and that's it. So I booked the film, make a few dollars, and I'm doing the Nutcracker, and I'm doing Avenel, and that's it, Chris. And also, we can't really announce any news on that other stuff, can we?
We could tease it a little bit. There might be something in the works with a new network. There could be a new show involved. There's a lot of logistics that need to be worked out on all fronts.
The Jimmy Palumbo show will exist as it is, but I might have like another small little half-hour show that will be on a network, a streaming network that's pretty big, and a bunch of Chop Sports shows will go along with that as well, which that'll be big news for all of us because the key word is there's revenue involved. So that's the key word. What rhymes with revenue? Downtown Matawan. So that'll be some big news, and it's exciting. I give you guys credit for getting these nibbles, Mojo app, and this other network, and that's cool stuff. That's where you want to be. You know what, Chris? I think what I forgot to mention. How could I forget to not mention Pine Tar Bar and Grill, Tommy Plinio's place at 121 South Main Street, Forked River, 609-489-4286. Go check it out. Go watch the Giants. Go watch Rutgers. Go watch Penn State, whatever the hell you want to watch. Awesome sports bar. Really good food. Say hello to my buddy Tommy. Call him a jerk off. I was his babysitter once, and I'll probably punch you in the face if you call him a jerk off, but that's cool. And Pine Tar bargrill.com. Go check it out. There's 1,000 TVs in there. It's cool. And you know what, Chris? I think we should end the show on that, my friend.
Sounds like a plan, my friend.
And I will see you next week. Now, next week, I'm going to say it on the air. It looks like we're going to have Joe Latrulio, who was Dave in Beer League, but he's also on Brooklyn 911 for 10 years. So he's coming on our show next week. He's scheduled to anyway. Ralph Macchio will be coming on the show, and we're going into the guest arena. But I wanted to have Eddie Zucker on because it's Rutgers basketball time. All right, that's it. The next one, I'll talk it over here from the Omni in downtown Mawa. All right, we'll see you, Chris.
All right, I'll see you,
Thanks, buddy. See you.